Рефери разнимает бойцов даже.
And now Khabib jumps the fence. Whoa! No! And he's going right at Dylan Dennis.
Hold tight, because you're about to witness the most epic and mind-boggling fights of all time.
I don't think we're coming back to Sheep Street. I don't think we're coming. Oh no! Oh God Almighty! Oh, the humanity!
From bizarre duels to crazy and chaotic slap fights, these jaw-dropping battles escalated pretty quickly, and thanks to our handy cameras, became viral overnight. So brace yourselves as we expose the weirdest and wildest fights of all time. Russian phone booth brawl. Picture this: two fighters crammed inside an old British phone booth, going at it with nowhere to run. That's the latest viral sensation from Russia, brought to life by the promotion Punch Club. Forget the metaphorical idea of fighting in a phone box for close-range action. This took the phrase literally. In Moscow, Punch Club staged these chaotic brawls, stripping combat down to its rawest form. Fighters stepped into the cramped booth, armed with nothing but hand wraps for protection. What followed was an intense flurry of punches, elbows, and even slaps. With zero room to dodge, every second inside the booth was pure adrenaline. The rules were simple: fight until one competitor surrendered. These bouts, staged in the iconic red booths, weren't just fights. They were spectacles of endurance and grit. The visuals, often shared on Instagram, quickly turned into a viral phenomenon. It's raw, it's brutal, and it's undeniably bizarre. Whether you call it innovative or insane, one thing's certain: phone booth brawling has redefined the limits of combat sports. Yoshitakayama versus Don Fry. Some fights are so legendary, they don't just entertain, they become part of MMA folklore. Yoshitakayama versus Don Fry at Pride 21 in 2002 is one of those fights. If you've never seen it, buckle up, because this clash wasn't about technique or strategy. It was pure, unfiltered chaos. The bell rang, and what followed was nothing short of madness.
See, guys, ready, go! Bombs that we expect in Pride Fighting Championship demolition, and there's that right hand. They're duking it out, Don Fry with right hand. Takayama, boom! Oh, look at this!
Fry and Takayama grabbed each other by the neck and unleashed an onslaught of punches to the face. No defense, no hesitation, just raw aggression. It wasn't a fight. It was a war of wills. You couldn't look away as they stood toe-to-toe, trading blow after blow, with the crowd losing their minds. Takayama, known for his incredible toughness, looked like he was made of iron, but Fry's relentless assault eventually proved too much. Referee Yuji Shimada stepped in to call it, declaring Fry the winner. But in that moment, it didn't matter who won or lost. Both fighters became legends. This fight wasn't just about victory. It was about heart, grit, and the willingness to put everything on the line. It remains one of the most talked about moments in MMA history, and for good reason. Bob Sapp versus Kley Idar. In 2011, in Budapest, Bob Sapp stepped into the ring at Fight Code Dragons Round 3 to face Kley Idar, a 48-year-old Hungarian Muay Thai fighter. The matchup seemed like something out of a circus. Sapp, weighing 330 pounds, faced a fighter 225 pounds lighter. What could possibly go wrong? By this stage of his career, Sapp was no stranger to bizarre matches, and this one was no exception. Idar, despite his size disadvantage, managed to shock everyone by pulling off an upset, or so it seemed. The fight itself was a carnival of chaos. Sapp pushed Idar out of the ring and then turned on the referee. A baffled referee stopped the fight, but later restarted it. The crowd turned wild, booing and pelting the ring with bottles and cans. In a jaw-dropping moment, Idar knocked out the giant. This showdown wasn't just a fight, it was a spectacle. It highlighted Sap's tumultuous career and left fans questioning if they just witnessed a fight or a live-action drama. One thing's for sure, this bizarre battle is a story fans won't forget. Kajitsu. Imagine being locked inside a car, not as a passenger, but as a fighter. That's the insane premise behind Kajitsu, a combat sport that's turning heads worldwide. Originated by Vic McKeeve, a Russian grad student and martial artist at Kansas State University, this unconventional grappling league began in 2020 and has grown into a full-fledged phenomenon. Fights start with contenders buckled into their seats. A coin flip decides who gets the driver's side. The battle begins when seatbelts unclick, and from there, it's a mix of strategy, strength, and pure chaos. Chokeholds, arm bars, and creative moves using everything from headrests to seatbelts dominate the action. The rules are strict, no striking or breaking car parts for weapons, but anything else is fair game. Matches were first held inside a Toyota Scion, chosen for its safety and size, but the league has since expanded to new vehicles and locations. Fighters have even used seatbelts to secure wins, as seen in the intense bout between Rihanna Cardiel and Miranda Ray. It's a bizarre mix of martial arts and vehicular mayhem. So, would you step into the ring, or rather, the driver's seat? Let us know in the comments below. Alan Kinski versus Amadeus Roslik and Dariusz Roslik. What happens when a fight goes horribly wrong and turns into something completely unexpected? You get the wild showdown between Alan Kinski, Amadeus Roslik, and his father, Dariusz Roslik. It all started with Kinski facing Amadeus in a highly anticipated bout. But things took a dramatic twist when Kinski missed weight, throwing the entire event into chaos. Instead of just one fight, it quickly became a 2-against-1 battle. Kinski didn't just face Amadeus, but also Dariusz, Amadeus's father, making this a family affair in the worst possible way. From the start, the cage was full of tension. Kinski, clearly frustrated, went head-to-head with Amadeus, throwing powerful strikes. But as the fight continued, Dariusz jumped in, adding fuel to the fire. What followed was total mayhem, an all-out brawl between Kinski and the Rosliks. With emotions running high and punches flying from every direction, the fight quickly became one of the most chaotic in recent memory. Tyson's track record, popularity, and experience made him the clear favorite in the eyes of fans.
Tyson requested the 2-minute rounds, wanting to see more action. He just landed the overhand right, testing the beard of Paul Erlich.
And honestly, in the first few rounds, it looked like he would emerge victorious against the incredulous YouTuber. Tyson came out strong, showing flashes of his old form. His punches were landing, and Jake was on the defensive. But as the rounds went on, Tyson began to fade. His stamina, a concern due to his age, started to fade. Jake Paul, on the other hand, remained composed, pushing through the fatigue while Tyson struggled to keep up. In the end, Jake Paul won by unanimous decision, shocking everyone.
Declaring your winner by unanimous decision, Jake El Gallo Paul!
What do you think? Was it a fluke, or did Jake really earn that victory? Eddie Hall versus the Nafati brothers. Good luck finding a more bizarre and chaotic 13-second stretch than what went down in Eddie Hall's 2-on-1 bout at the World Freak Fight League event in the UK. Hall, the retired strongman, headlined the night in a fight against Jamil and Jamel Nafati, known as the Nafati brothers. The brothers started slow, strategically using leg kicks from a distance, each standing at different angles to Hall as they chipped away. But the fight took a wild turn when the brothers, frustrated with their lack of progress, shot for a takedown. In an instant, Hall showcased his strength, lifting one brother high into the air and tossing him to the canvas. The throw sent him crashing to the mat with some serious hang time before landing flat on his back. But Hall wasn't done. As the other brother rushed in, Hall shoved him away, then threw a perfectly timed counterpunch on the brother who had just recovered.
And here we go on the replay. They're lifting up on the pile driver. Now they're closing the distance. There's the right hand.
The punch landed with brutal precision, sending the Nafati brother face first into the canvas to end the fight in a spectacular finish. Kley Idar versus Hongman Choi. K1 fans often say the glory days of combat sports were during its heyday, but even the best promotions had their fair share of bizarre matchups. One fight that stands out as an absolute spectacle was between Kley Idar and the towering Hongman Choi. Kley, known as the Giant Killer, was a Muay Thai legend with a kickboxing career that earned him multiple championships. Weighing in at 175 pounds, he was a light figure in the K1 super heavyweight division, often stepping into the ring against men far larger than him. One of his most memorable encounters came when he faced off against the Korean Colossus, Hongman Choi. Tipping the scales at a massive 355 pounds, Choi was an absolute giant, and most fans thought he would finish Kley in the first round. But Kley wasn't intimidated. He used his speed, agility, and smart tactics to survive Choi's furious flurries. The fight turned into a David versus Goliath scenario, with Kley defying the odds. In the end, Choi took the decision victory, but Kley's resilience left everyone in awe. Fight turns chaotic before it even begins. In one of the most bizarre pre-fight moments in MMA history, Artur Kulinski took things to a whole new level by attacking his opponent, Farid Yadulayev, before the opening bell even rang. The two were scheduled to face off at the Hardcore Fighting Championships reality final card in Moscow. However, as the announcer began the introductions, Kulinski, known as a KAB, had no interest in waiting. He charged at Yadulayev, throwing wild punches right out of the gate.
Один из тех, кому на грудь смелым.
Yadulayev managed to dodge the first few shots, but Kulinski wasn't done. As Yadulayev tried to back away, Kulinski landed a brutal left body kick that floored his opponent. The referee immediately tried to intervene, but Kulinski kept coming. The chaos escalated when security had to rush in to separate the two fighters. Fans watched in shock as the fight quickly devolved into a full-blown brawl before it even started. Hardcore Fighting Championship officials quickly cancelled the fight, much to Yadulayev's frustration. He called out Kulinski, challenging him to face him in the cage if he was truly a man. Giant Silver versus Ikuhisa Minowa. When it comes to freak show fights, Japan's Pride has certainly delivered some unforgettable moments. And the battle between Giant Silver and Ikuhisa Minowa is a perfect example of how size isn't always the deciding factor. Giant Silver, a 7'2" Brazilian powerhouse, was no stranger to the spotlight. While his fighting skills were often called into question, Silver was primarily used by Pride for entertainment and spectacle. But when he faced Ikuhisa Minowa, a 5'9" grappler with solid skills, nobody expected what happened next. Despite being outmatched by more than 200 pounds, Minowa showed his mastery of the ground game in spectacular fashion. He carefully avoided Silva's strikes in the early going, circling and waiting for the perfect moment. That moment came when Minowa performed an incredible front roll, latched onto Silva's leg, and brought the giant crashing to the mat. What followed was nothing short of shocking. Minowa unleashed a brutal ground and pound attack, landing knee after knee, forcing the referee to step in and stop the fight. Who could have predicted that? 50-year-old fights a teen. In the world of MMA, matchups usually feature fighters of similar age and weight. But in October 2023, Clout MMA threw the rulebook out the window. In a bizarre family feud turned fight, 50-year-old Gosia Magical faced off against 19-year-old Nikita in Poland. The unusual twist? Nikita was the ex-girlfriend of Gosia's son, Daniel Zwyzinski. The fight became an internet sensation, not just for the age gap, but for the deeply personal history between the fighters. The long-standing feud between Gosia and Nikita boiled over, leading to this high-stakes MMA showdown. Despite the age difference, Gosia came out swinging, taking control from the start and defying expectations. Nikita, who many assumed would dominate due to her youth, was no match for Gosia's experience. The fight ended with Gosia's victory, leaving fans stunned. One Instagram user summed it up: "Age doesn't matter if you know how to throw a punch, and the other is just pulling hair." Gabby Garcia versus Yumiko Hotta. Gabby Garcia, an undefeated Brazilian jiu-jitsu powerhouse, is one of the most intimidating figures in combat sports. With an impressive resume that includes 4 ADCC gold medals, 9 World Jiu-Jitsu Championships, and 11 Pan American titles, Garcia's size and skill made it nearly impossible for her to find a worthy opponent. Weighing 205 pounds, she towered over most fighters. So, when the Risen promotion looked to match her up, they found a bizarre and controversial opponent. Former Japanese pro wrestling star Yumiko Hotta, who was 50 years old at the time. This matchup was frankly a disaster waiting to happen. As expected, the fight didn't last long. Garcia, who was in a league of her own, quickly took control. After a brief moment of Hotta trying to evade, Garcia locked in, and what followed was only described as a brutal display of raw strength and skill. Hotta, who had no business being in the ring with someone like Garcia, was overwhelmed within moments. The fight ended in pure destruction. The difference in size, strength, and experience was just too much. 3 against 1 MMA chaos. An elite fighters event in Poland turned into a bizarre spectacle over the weekend, when a 3 versus 1 bout ended with an unsurprisingly quick result. The fighter known as Kung Fu Panda faced off against 3 Polish hopefuls in a match that quickly spiraled into chaos. The fight started with surreal scenes as the 4 fighters touched gloves before the bell rang. It didn't take long for things to get ugly. Panda was immediately taken down by one of his 3 opponents, while the other 2 mercilessly pounded him on the ground. Despite the referee's attempts to let the fight continue, it became evident in seconds that Panda was outmatched. The referee eventually waved off the fight, signaling a clear win for the trio. Surprisingly, the situation ended on a positive note, with the 3 victors checking on their fallen opponent and sharing hugs. Fans were shocked by the bizarre nature of the bout,
W jakikolwiek sposób Kung Fu Panda wyszedł z tego, bo tutaj już idą solidne młoty i jest przerwanie tego pojedynku.
No, nikomu krzywda się nie stała, wyrazy szacunku są.
With one joking that UFC should follow suit, using fighters like Cejudo and Benavidez against someone like Francis Ngannou. YouTuber challenges MMA fighter. In the world of online fame, some influencers believe that their popularity and fitness journey make them invincible, even against seasoned professionals. A prime example of this came when YouTuber Gregory Chistyakov, who had recently embarked on a fitness transformation, decided to challenge Darina Mazouk, a battle-hardened MMA star with years of experience. Gregory, with a minimal combat sports background, quickly realized that fame and a healthy lifestyle weren't nearly enough to compete with a true professional. The fight, which lasted just 90 seconds, was over before it even began. Gregory tried to evade Darina's strikes, running around the ring in an attempt to survive, but Darina closed the gap with precision and speed. Within moments, Gregory was taken down and unable to defend himself. This brutal reality check proved that online popularity can't replace real training. Gregory learned the hard way that being a YouTube sensation doesn't automatically translate into success inside the ring. Bob Sapp versus Kyoshi Tamura. Bob Sapp may be known in modern MMA circles for fixing fights and his questionable losses, but back in the day, he was a terrifying force. The Japanese fans practically worshipped him, and his reputation was nearly godlike. But in his second appearance at Pride 21, Sapp, weighing in at a monstrous 325 pounds, faced off against the much smaller Kyoshi Tamura, who came in at just 185 pounds. Imagine stepping into the ring with a man literally twice your size, someone known for his brutal strength and heavy punches. That's exactly what Tamura did, showing incredible bravery in the face of overwhelming odds. From the opening bell, Sapp charged at Tamura, throwing wild, powerful punches. He quickly caught Tamura with a right hook, and it was clear that the Japanese fighter's worst fears were becoming a reality. Picture this: a giant of a man, roaring in your face, raining down hammer fists with all his might, every strike landing like a truck. After just 40 seconds of this relentless onslaught, Tamura's corner had seen enough. They threw in the towel, not just to end the fight, but to protect their fighter's life. Now it's time for the subscriber's pick. Sometimes, weight disparity becomes a secondary issue in a fight, especially when a gorgeous lady MMA fighter decides to go up against one of the heaviest men in the business. While we don't know about many such fights, this photo of an alleged showdown between a female fighter and a guy who looks a lot like John Tenta recently made wrestling fans go crazy. Do you think this fight actually happened? And if it did, who won? Lightning-fast knockout. In one of the most electrifying moments in UFC history, Jorge Masvidal recorded the fastest knockout ever in UFC. With a lightning-fast knee to Ben Askren's jaw, Masvidal ended the fight in just 5 seconds, leaving fans and fighters alike in shock. From the moment the bell rang, Masvidal wasted no time, charging toward Askren and landing the knee before his opponent even had a chance to react. Askren, who was previously undefeated, admitted after the match that he didn't even realize what had hit him. For Masvidal, however, this move had been months in the making. He'd perfected it during intense training sessions. The fight was so quick that Askren didn't even have time to recover. After a knee and 2 punches, the referee called it off, with Askren left unconscious on the mat. Masvidal jokingly remarked that he had hoped to take the fight into the second round, but it ended in the blink of an eye. Emmanuel Yabro versus Takasi. When it comes to weight disparities, The fight between Emmanuel Yabro and Daiji Takasi is truly in a league of its own. Yabro, at a staggering 600 pounds, was the world's heaviest athlete according to the Guinness Book of World Records. Takase, on the other hand, weighed just 200 pounds. Standing face to face, it was a visual mismatch that seemed almost comical. Yet this was real, and the fight was about to get even wilder. Takase, known for his speed and agility, implemented a solid game plan, using his kicks and overhand punches to stay on the move. But Yabro, a former sumo wrestler, wasn't just going to let him circle around freely. He patiently waited for the perfect moment to close the distance and bring the fight to the ground. Then came the daring moment. Takase went for a single-leg takedown, but found himself underneath 600 pounds of pure mass. Watching Takase attempt an armbar on such a giant was both impressive and, frankly, a little absurd. But somehow, Takase managed to escape the ground scramble and delivered a ground and pound that sealed the deal. Muhammad Ali fights Antonio Inoki. One of the most bizarre matchups was when Muhammad Ali faced Antonio Inoki, a legendary Japanese wrestler. Promoted as a historic clash between two icons, the fight became something unexpected. From the start, Inoki remained on his knees. He used only his legs to kick at Ali. The boxer, known for his lightning-fast punches, barely threw a single strike. Instead, Ali danced around the ring, dodging Inoki's low kicks. The match dragged on for 15 rounds, with neither fighter landing a decisive blow. Fans, hoping for an electrifying showdown, grew frustrated. The odd tactics left the fight feeling flat. In the end, the bout was declared a draw, leaving fans disappointed. Despite the strange nature of the contest, Ali and Inoki would go on to become friends. The fight is remembered more for its awkwardness than for any skill. It is now one of the most unusual events in combat sports history. Dumplings Slap. The event began with a chaotic entrance, causing many in the crowd to miss the first few slap fights. However, the anticipation was high when Russian farmer-turned-power slapper Vasily Dumpling Komotsky faced off against Kamil Polar Bear Marusaz. Polar Bear, towering over Dumpling, seemed like an imposing figure. It was predicted that Dumpling would be lucky to even land a slap on his opponent's cheek, but this assumption proved to be wildly incorrect. Dumpling won the toss and got the first slap, a significant advantage in the sport. The referee began the countdown. With a swift motion, Dumpling struck Polar Bear's left cheek. The crack of the blow echoed through the venue. Polar Bear collapsed immediately, going limp and falling to the floor. The crowd, including Power Slap owner Dana White, erupted in shock and excitement. The slap had clearly taken its toll. For a tense minute, Polar Bear remained motionless on the canvas. As officials rushed to his side, the big screens showed slow-motion replays of the slap. This drew mixed reactions from the crowd. Finally, Polar Bear began to move and was escorted off the stage. The relieved crowd offered a hesitant round of applause as the show continued. Travis Fulton ruins Jeremy Bullock's career. One of MMA's most harrowing moments unfolded in the early days of the sport, when Travis Fulton faced Jeremy Bullock. The fight, which took place at a time when MMA was still finding its footing, ended in a brutal and tragic way that would leave a lasting impact on the sport. Fulton, a seasoned veteran with over 60 fights under his belt, entered the cage with a massive weight advantage, outweighing Bullock by over 30 pounds. Bullock, making his debut, had no idea what was about to unfold. From the start, Fulton took control, showing off his experience and overwhelming strength. The fight came to a tragic conclusion when Fulton executed a thunderous body slam, tossing Bullock to the canvas with vicious force. The impact was so severe that Bullock broke a vertebra in the process. A stretcher carried the young fighter out of the cage. His MMA career ended before it even began. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.